Hello, everyone. A very logical day to all of you. And yes, we are coming to the weekend of this week. So I hope you have gone through all the articles that we have discussed, apart from reading all the articles that have been suggested to you. Kindly go through the words that you have noted down from these articles and just flip the pages of your notebook. If you have noted them down, I am assuming. And if not, then kindly note them down, and then that would be a revision for the week. Let's see what we have today in this first editorial of the Indian Express of April 7th. So, reading the pause. Reading the pause would mean, so let's understand what this pause is. So, in the run up to the Monetary Policy Committee's April meeting, there was discussion and debate over the committee members' course of action. What is to be done? Uncertainty over policy stemmed from two factors. Stemmed means they came from or giving rise to. So they rose from two factors. One, growing dissent within the committee on the issue of raising interest rates further, even as inflationary pressures persist. And two, concerns over financial stability gaining ground over the past few weeks following the collapse of banks in the US and Europe. Now, see, dissent is leaving your group and moving away from the from that group, that is leaving away and moving to the other group. ये होता है डिसेंट, फिर चाहे किसी कमिटी में हो या चाहे किसी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी में हो, दैट इज डिसेंशन, राइट? Stopping your following of any one group and moving away to the other. So now this is the dissent within the committee. There are few people who would say that, see, raising the interest rates, or they should be raised or they should not be raised. Why? Because of the inflationary pressures. कोई बोलेंगे कि हाँ इनको अभी भी हम रेज करें इंटरेस्ट रेट्स को, और कोई बोलेंगे कि नहीं करें क्योंकि inflationary pressures अभी भी चल रहे हैं, persisting. Now, the concerns of financial stability gaining ground over the past few weeks following the collapse of banks in the US and Europe. You have read about these banks, no? The collapse of the banks. Against this backdrop, on Thursday, the MP voted unanimously to keep the policy repo rate unchanged at 6.5%. Unanimously with a single decision. This is at odds with the actions taken by the US and European central banks. At odds with means against or opposite of or not equal to, that is not even, तो वो odds हो जाएगा. What US and the European central banks did, what the RBI is doing or have unanimously voted to do, is not to change the repo rate, but US and European central banks did otherwise. The MPC's decision, driven by economic uncertainties and the need to assess the impact of actions taken so far, does not necessarily imply an end to the rate hike cycle. Right? This is what the author is saying, that if it is not increased now, doesn't mean that this hike in the rate cycle is going to stop. वो नहीं होगा, थोड़ा समय के बाद वो वापस से increase कर सकते हैं. As RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das also said, the decision to pause on the repo rate is for this meeting only. ठीक है, तो अभी हम थोड़ा सा रुक के देखते हैं कि उसका असर कैसे होगा या क्या है सब लोगों की राय. That is what he is saying. So we'll take a pause, not increasing the repo rate. Then let's see. So you have the point in this article, in this paragraph, that they have not increased the repo rate, and this pause in the increase of the repo rate is just for this meeting. So let us read or let us understand. तभी वो टाइटल था ना, रीडिंग द पॉज. तो पॉज तो लिया उन्होंने, थोड़ा सा रोका है, थमा है. उसके साथ अब हमें क्या समझ में आ रहा है? What we can infer, what we can understand, that is the point. Now, the policy statement as well as the governor's comments highlight the underlying price pressures in the economy. Headline retail inflation, as measured by the Consumer Price Index, has stayed above the upper threshold of the RBI's inflation targeting framework in January and February, after falling below it in the months before. Right now, see, The governor's comments highlight the underlying price pressures. ये तो है ही सही. प्राइस प्रेशर्स है, उसे पहले पैराग्राफ में भी कहा था, inflationary pressures persist. What we need here is the headline retail inflation as measured by the CPI. Now these are two topics that you have to read. This has stayed above the upper threshold. Threshold means just on the verge of, just on the brink, edge. हम ये कर सकते हैं. थ्रेशोल्ड का एक्चुअली मीनिंग होता है वो चौखट जिसके बाद आप रूम में एंटर करते हो, तो दैट इज द थ्रेशोल्ड टू एंटर द हाउस और एंटर द रूम. So this threshold means the edge. Now, however, some economists expect inflation to fall sharply in the coming months, largely due to the base effect. The RBI also expects inflation at 5.5% in the first quarter of 23-24. If it begins to trend lower, it may create the space for an extended pause by the committee as it assesses the impact of the cumulative rate hikes on the broader economy. देखो यहाँ पे if करके ऑथर ने एक कंडीशन दी है. आरबीआई एक्सपेक्ट क्या कर रहा है कि इन्फ्लेशन कम हो जाएगी. अभी इन्फ्लेशन कितना है? 6.4%. ठीक है, अभी कितना कम हो जाएगा, दैट इज एक्सपेक्टेड. क्यों? क्योंकि रेपो रेट में एक पॉज दे दिया है, थोड़ा सा रुक गया है. ठीक है, अब अगर इन्फ्लेशन कम होती है 5.1% एक्सपेक्टेड इन द फर्स्ट क्वार्टर ऑफ 23-24. फर्स्ट क्वार्टर वुड मीन अप्रैल मई जून. ठीक है, ये फर्स्ट क्वार्टर होगा. यहां पर अगर इन्फ्लेशन रुक जाती है, 5.1% है या उससे कम हो जाती है या उसके आगे भी वो डिक्लाइन होती है, तो ये जो आरबीआई ने पॉज लिया है, पॉज मतलब उसे रेपो रेट को नहीं बढ़ाया है. सो दिस पॉज टेकन बाय द आरबीआई विल बी एक्सटेंडेड. तो हो सकता है कि वो नेक्स्ट अपने मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कमिटी जो है वो भी नेक्स्ट अपने रिव्यू में इट इज नॉट गोइंग टू इंक्रीज द रेपो रेट अगेन. इट इज पॉसिबल ओनली इफ दिस इन्फ्लेशन रिड्यूसेस और डिक्लाइंस steadily, right? As it assesses the impact of the cumulative rate hikes on the broader economy. Since the MPC began to hike rates last year, it has raised rates by 250 basis points. ठीक है, 250 बेसिस पॉइंट्स मतलब 2.5% के हिसाब से वो बढ़ गया है. तो धीरे 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 उसने बढ़ा है. हर मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी रिव्यू में उसने इंक्रीज किया था ग्रेजुअली ऑलमोस्ट, एंड दैट इज द क्यूमुलेटिव रेट हाइक. दैट मीन्स 250 basis points. So why is this pause taken? So that they can assess or judge, evaluate the impact of this cumulative rate hikes on the people, on the economy. For the full year, the central bank now expects inflation to average 5.2%, with the fourth quarter inflation being projected at 5.2%. This would imply a real interest rate of 1.3%. Are you getting this? ये real interest rate कहाँ से आया? 6.5% से 5.2 हटा देंगे तो 1.3% real interest rate हो गया. Now, alongside, the central bank has also raised its estimate of growth from 6.4% earlier to 6.5% now. While the change is marginal, it suggests an improvement in economic conditions. However, there are downside risks to this forecast. Right? Downside, we have understood this word earlier. धीरे धीरे उसका जो नेगेटिव साइड रहेगा, उसका जो कॉन्स वाला साइड रहेगा, pros and cons. So pros is the positive and cons is the negative. So it has a downside risk to this forecast. As per other estimates, growth is likely to slow down sharply from 7% in 22-23. For instance, the World Bank has recently pegged the Indian economy. Pegged, if you have listened to these editorial discussions, maybe pegged we got almost 3 or 4 times in the passages, articles around February or so. So pegged the Indian economy to grow at 6.3% in 23-24, while others such as CRISIL expect it to be lower at 6%. As the global growth slows down and the full impact of higher domestic rates is felt across the economy, the scope for further hikes will depend on how the growth inflation dynamics evolve. Right? So if the RBI is to increase the interest rates again. It has taken a pause now. So, to assess the effect or the impact on the Indian economy, first they'll see that, they'll check that, they'll assess that, and then they'll continue with whatever they have to do, whether keeping it stable or increasing it. So, the last line comes up as the major point here again. The scope for further hikes will depend on how the growth inflation dynamics evolve. तो हमें देखना पड़ेगा पहले कि क्या उसका असर होता है, and then whether they'll raise the interest rates or no. So RBI keeps the interest rates unchanged. ये था उसका pause. But with inflationary pressures persisting, future rate hikes cannot be ruled out. Cannot be ruled out, that means they are still in consideration. तो अभी तो उन्होंने पॉज किया है, आगे उसको कंटिन्यू कर सकते हैं, पॉसिबल है, हो भी सकता है, नहीं भी हो सकता है, डिपेंड किस पे करेगा, एक और बात इस पे लिख लेंगे हम. सो इट डिपेंड्स on the impact of this Indian economic growth. The impact on the economy. So let's see now how many words we have. We don't have many words here because though related to economy, so I have 3 words here that you have to read on. Inflation, उसको अच्छे से पढ़ना, अदरवाइज तुमसे इन्फ्लेशन पूछते तो तुम बोलते हो महंगाई बढ़ गई है, पर इन्फ्लेशन सिर्फ महंगाई होती है ये जरूरी नहीं है. ठीक है, तो इन्फ्लेशन समझना है, हेडलाइन रिटेल इन्फ्लेशन समझना है, कंज्यूमर प्राइस इंडेक्स होता है. दिस इज व्हाट इज सीपीआई. A few of you might have read it, a few of you might not have read it, they must have heard it, but yes, kindly go through this because these are the basics. CPI है, एक WPI भी होता है, वो भी पढ़ लेना. ठीक है, अगर जब तुम इन्फ्लेशन पढ़ते हो तो हाउ टू कंट्रोल इन्फ्लेशन. What does the RBI do? RBI measures to control inflation, right? What is liquidity? तुम वो पढ़ना. And then deflation, controlling deflation और recession. ये कुछ words हैं जो तुम पढ़ सकते हो, right? Note down a few words, read them. Last time also I had given you a few words so that you have the whole week to read. Here also I am giving you a few words, so थोड़ा सा और पढ़ लो. When you read, you'll get to understand more articles, such articles that are based on business or economy and finance and all. तो वो टर्म्स भी समझ में आएंगे और पूरा उनका वर्किंग समझ में आएगा. ये सब पढ़ने के बाद आप मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी का जो रिव्यू रहेगा वो पढ़ लेना. ठीक है, स्वामीनाथन अय्यर जो देते हैं स्वामी नॉमिक्स में, you can read a few articles based, or you can read it from his blog if you want, right? So these topics will be well catered there. So you'll be able to understand. पर पहले खुद पढ़ना सीधे उस पे मत चले जाना स्वामीनॉमिक्स पे. चलो, let us come to these words. Stemmed, as I said, limited, stop, restrict, curtail, ये होता है. इस सेंटेंस में क्या था? To give rise to, right? Dissent, rebellion, disagreement, gaining ground. धीरे धीरे वो बातें घर कर रही हैं, इसका मतलब धीरे धीरे वो स्ट्रांग होती जा रही है. That is gaining ground. Unanimously, you know the words. Uni is single, no? Unanimously of the same opinion. तो solidly, continuously, universally. Continuously का मतलब continuously को आप उसको non-stop के साथ मत करो, तो you can leave it if you want. But unanimously was like one after the other people would agree to it. तो एक unanimous decision हो जाता है. Threshold will be on the verge of, ये आता है on the verge of, on the edge of. ठीक है, ब्रिंक है वो, BRINK. ऑन द एज ऑफ हो सकता है, और डॉन मीन्स अबाउट टू हैपन. In that way, I have given you the word dawn. क्यूमुलेटिव फ्रीक्वेंसी होती है, ठीक है। स्टैटिस्टिक्स जब क्या होता है तुमने, तो क्यूमुलेटिव होता है कि जितना इंक्रीज होता जा रहा है, उसने जैसे कहा था कि ओवरऑल इंक्रीज कितना हुआ, 250 बेसिस पॉइंट्स, ठीक है। तो ये एक क्यूमुलेटिव स्कोर हो जाता है उसका, राइट। तो एवरी ईयर, एवरी quarter, what happened, how much it was increased, in that way it was 250 basis points total increase. So that's all for today. Thank you and have a logical weekend.